Hello and welcome back to Drew's Fancy History TV. I'm your host, Drew Doherty. Exactly 110 years ago today, on May 7, 1915, the RMS Lusitania, a British passenger liner while it was on its voyage to Liverpool, was torpedoed and sunk by German submarine U-20. The ship sank in 18 minutes. 1,195 of the 1,959 people aboard died in the sinking, including 123 Americans. The sinking of Lusitania was a massive outrage and shifted the public's opinion against Germany. Although the sinking of the Lusitania was not the main reason, it was one of the factors for the United States to get involved in the First World War. If you want to learn more how the US got involved in World War I, check out my video that I did last year on the Submarine Telegram. The video will be linked down in the description below. Today, I'm going to tell you all about the story of the RMS Lusitania, from the events before the ship was built all the way to what happened after the sinking. So sit back, relax, and grab something to eat and drink, and I hope you all enjoy. The story of the Lusitania would all begin in 1902, when Cunard's main rival, the White Star Line, was bought by the American International Mercantile Marine Company, or IMM for short. IMM was founded in 1901 by American millionaire named J.P. Morgan, who wanted to invest heavily on the transatlantic ship industry that was becoming popular in the late 19th century to the early 20th century, when immigrants wanted to leave Europe and start a new life in America. Around the same time as IMM was beginning to grow in the transatlantic ship industry, Cunard was getting concerned about IMM possibly taking over the entire British shipping industry. They were also concerned that Britain would not have access to enough large ocean liners in the event of a war. Ocean liners was being considered an important component of military strategists at the time. Cunard had a meeting with the British government to discuss the whole situation about IMM. The government agreed to give the Cunard a loan of £2.6 million in order to build two brand new revolutionary ocean liners. However, in order for Cunard to get this loan, the government had very strict technical specifications that they wanted to invest into their new ship. The reason why the British government did that was because in the event of a war should break out, the government wanted to be able to use these vessels for military purposes. More specifically, they wanted to use these ships as armed merchant cruisers. The ships would have to be built for the potential to be converted into a military cruiser if the government needed it. The machinery for the ship needed to be installed below the waterline for a defense in the case of an attack. Lastly, the ships would be fast and mobile with a high speed at least 24 knots. Originally, the ships were designed to have 3 funnels and 3 propellers, but they ended up installing 4 to reach the requirement speed. They were the first ships to exceed 30,000 tons and the first to exceed 700 feet in length, and the first to be powered by a steam turbine. They also had 6 passenger decks, which was rare at the time. What's interesting, the differences between the Mauretania and the Lusitania's coal bunkers compared to Titanic. The Mauretania and the Lusitania's coal bunkers ran along the outside of the bottom deck of the ships, while the Titanic ran across. The Mauretania was slightly longer than her sister ship. The interior of the ship was designed by James Miller, a Scottish artist. The ship was very luxurious, decorated with a Georgian-style first-class lounge and a music room, multiple cafes, and massive marble fireplace in each lounge. The Lusitania was the first Cunard line to supply second class with their own lounge, which was still very nice. The ship's name was taken from Lusitania, an ancient Roman province on the west of the Iberian Peninsula. The key was laid in August of 1904, and after a long construction, the ship launched on June 7, 1906, but she didn't make her main voyage until September 7, 1907. 200,000 people showed up to see the ship depart, sailing from Liverpool to New York. The total number of passengers was 2,320. In her early days, she would compete with her sister ship for the Blue Ribbon, an award given for the fastest passenger ship across the Atlantic Ocean. She could have won an award on her main voyage, but a strong fog slowed the ship down by about 2 days. She was able to win the award on her second voyage. She was the perfect combination of speed and beauty. In late 1909, the Lusitania participated in the Hudson-Fulton celebration in New York City. The purpose of this event was to showcase different kinds of transportation across generations. She represented the present era navigational transportation. A famous photograph was taken at this event, which included the Lusitania, the Wilbur's Flying Flyer, and the Statue of Liberty. You can see this picture now. Just a few months later, in January of 1910, the Lusitania was sailing its normal route from Liverpool to New York when she encountered a rogue wave. The wave stood 75 feet tall, but the ship didn't back down. Rather than riding on the top of it or trying to dodge it, she broke through the wave. The ship was slightly damaged, but no one was injured in this incident, as the journey was only delayed a few hours. World War I began in 1914 when the United Kingdom entered the war. Many liners became warships. The Lusitania, even though the government made that deal with Cunard, was kept as a commercial ship at the start of the war. They shut down one of the boiler rooms to cut costs, but they also slowed the Lusitania down by about 4 knots. In early 1915, the dangers of submarines hit at an all-time high. In February, the Lusitania arrived in Liverpool flying the United States flag, which was obviously a big deal because the ship was British, but it was probably for safety reasons. The US was still neutral at the time, and Germany had declared the seas around Britain as a war zone. The ship departed New York City on May 1st, 1915 for what would have been her final voyage. Just a few hours later, the German embassy's warnings posted in the Washington Times notifying transatlantic ships of their intent to destroy. While approaching Ireland on May 7, the Lusitania crossed paths with German U-boat U-20. At 2:10 p.m., Commander Walter Speaker ordered a torpedo to be fired at the British ship, and an 18-year-old lookout on the Lusitania named Leslie Moore spotted white foam headed towards the ship and shouted, "Torpedo coming on the starboard side," through the megaphone. The torpedo hit the Lusitania on our starboard side, and soon after, there was a second explosion. That's when the chaos began. At 2:12 p.m., Captain Turner ordered to sail towards the coast, but the ship was already listening. Right about the same time, they also sent an SOS, which was received by a coastal O'Reilly station. The ship's position was sent to the station, but at 2:14 p.m., the Lusitania's power went out, and the interior went dark. This caused many crew members to be trapped in the forward cargo holds, leading to their inability to launch enough lifeboats, and also leading to their deaths. Only 6 out of the 48 lifeboats ended up to be launched properly, and it also claimed that some of the lifeboats may have crashed down onto the deck, knocking some of the passengers into the sea and crushing others. The ship took just 18 minutes to sink. Out of the 1,960 passengers, somewhere between 1,193 and 1,198 lost their lives. 128 of those were Americans. There's a lot of questions as to why no one came to rescue the passengers of the Lusitania. The HMS June was docked in Queenstown and went to assist her, but instead turned around. An Irish fishing boat called the Wanderer was actually the first to arrive. The Wanderer saved at least 160 people directly. The sinking of the Lusitania caused worldwide outrage. The U.S. was furious that many Americans died in this tragedy. Even though the Lusitania was never officially turned into a warship, she was carrying 50 tons of ammunition when she sank. This may have something to do with the second explosion. U.S. President Woodrow Wilson sided with his counselor, Robert Lancher, that Germans were at fault for this tragedy, even though it isn't the main reason why we got involved in World War I. The sinking of Lusitania definitely had an impact. An investigation was launched and an inquiry was held by the Board of Trade, led by Lord Mersey, the same guy who was charged with the Titanic hearings. 36 witnesses were called to a statement and were collected from crew members. The Arbitrary tried to pin on Captain Turner that was being negligent, but I disagree with this. Turner had most likely slowed the ship because there was a fog had moved in that morning. He was also under orders to ride a high tide, which slowed the ship down as well. At the end, Lord Mercy sided with Captain Turner and Cunard, blaming Germany for this disaster. Some believe a secret report existed on the Lusitania, but after Mercy died, no one knew for sure. Looking back at the sinking of Lusitania, there are still many questions. What caused the second explosion? Could it have been the ammunition, a coal dust, or a boiler explosion, or even a second torpedo? It seems like we'll never truly know to that answer. And also, why did the British Admiralty send any ships to assist the Lusitania? Were they worried about the Germans sinking more ships? And why did the Admiralty just turn the ship around before sending them into the war zone? They could have sent her to the western coast of France or even Spain to regroup and strategize. Even though the Germans were responsible for torpedoing the Lusitania, I truly believe that the British Admiralty holds some responsibilities for the sinking. Let me know what you think in the comments. Was Captain Turner responsible, or there was something more secretive going on? In closing, everybody knows about the sinking of the Titanic, but now by watching this video, you learn a little bit about the sinking of Lusitania. Someday I hope that Lusitania movie gets made. Thank you again for tuning into Drew's Venture History TV. If you enjoyed it, make sure you like this video and subscribe to ECAT for more on my show. Stay tuned for the updates on the upcoming Bridgewater Triangle docuseries. Thank you and have a great day.